In medieval Europe, there were countless palaces, but none were as magnificent as the Palace of Versailles in France. Perhaps because Versailles was so famous, rulers of other countries aspired to build equally grand structures to surpass it. However, constructing such palaces was no easy task. Large-scale projects require substantial funding, and surprisingly, this challenge was overcome by a woman in the mid-18th century. This woman was Maria Theresa, the only female ruler of Austria. Her life was full of unique experiences, and the construction of Schönbrunn Palace is one of the many fascinating tales about her. Schönbrunn Palace was originally built in the late 16th century for the Holy Roman Emperor. However, it was destroyed in a war a century later. Subsequently, Emperor Joseph I's father rebuilt the palace. When the emperor died, the palace remained unfinished due to a lack of funds, and the empress resided there alone. Later, Charles VI inherited the throne and began ruling Austria. Several years later, he had a daughter, who would become the formidable Maria Theresa. A few years later, Charles VI gained control of Schönbrunn Palace, but had little interest in it and gave it to his eldest daughter, Theresa, as a gift. Theresa loved Schönbrunn Palace, having played there since childhood. It was her vast private space, where she enjoyed considerable freedom. Theresa's independent nature led her to fall in love with her cousin, Duke Francis Stephen of Lorraine, at the age of 5. She defied royal opposition and pursued a free romance, which shocked the court, but ultimately succeeded. At 23, Charles VI died after eating poisonous mushrooms, and the young Theresa ascended to the throne as the Queen of Austria. Now able to renovate Schönbrunn Palace grandly, the palace's golden era was about to begin. The Queen planned to transform Schönbrunn into the royal residence and political center. She enlisted the famous neoclassical architect, Nicolas von Percasse, to redesign the palace. Nicolas worked diligently for 20 years, transforming Schönbrunn from a hunting lodge into a luxurious royal residence that could accommodate 1,000 people and covered an area of 26,000 square meters. Even so, Schönbrunn Palace still couldn't match the size of Versailles, which could host nearly 10,000 people. However, despite its smaller size, Schönbrunn's interior was incredibly luxurious, featuring the rare Rococo style in Austria at the time. The Queen loved opera, so Nicolas built a theatre on the palace's north side, allowing the Queen and her 16 children to perform plays and sing. In addition to the architect's efforts, Theresa's husband, Francis Stephen, also contributed. He and a group of Lorraine artists continued expanding the royal gardens. As a consort, Francis felt somewhat marginalized since his wife held all the power. Although he later became the Holy Roman Emperor with Theresa's help, real power remained with her. In protest, Francis spent his time indulging in affairs, or investing his energy into earning money and renovating Schönbrunn. He and the artists designed the palace gardens paths in a radial pattern, with Schönbrunn Palace at the center. The garden followed a Baroque style, emphasizing symmetry, even in the color of the stones. Francis also established a zoo and a botanical garden, and he invited German artist Wilhelm Bayer to create numerous sculptures based on Greek and Roman mythology. Before Schönbrunn was completed, Francis passed away, leaving Queen Theresa heartbroken. To find solace, she continued expanding Schönbrunn, extending the palace up Schönbrunn Hill. Years later, another renowned architect, Johann Ferdinand Hetzendorf von Hohenberg from Austria, took charge of Schönbrunn's design. He excavated the Neptune Fountain at the foot of the hill and built the Gloriette at the top, along with many structures mimicking ancient monuments from other countries, such as obelisks and artificial Roman ruins, transforming Schönbrunn into a true architectural museum. By this time, Schönbrunn Palace had become as impressive as Versailles. Unfortunately, Queen Theresa did not live to see the palace's final completion, passing away a year before its completion.